What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. I am Jamie Shaw. I'm with my co-host, Scott Spinelli, and this is The Breakdown. Scott, how's it going today?
Excellent, Jamie. Great to see you. I look forward to working with you again tonight as we get into the NC State Wolfpack.
And before we dive into the Wolfpack, let's let the listeners know who we are, who they're listening to, who they're trusting with their information. My name is Jamie Shaw, National Recruiting Analyst at Rivals.com. I am the author of the ABC Basketball Scouting Report, NCAA compliant scouting report that goes out to hundreds of college coaches throughout the country, one of the largest, most subscribed to services out there. Scott, why don't you introduce yourself?
Jamie, I've had the opportunity and the good fortune to coach at every level of basketball over the last 20 plus years. When I graduated college, I got right into prep school coaching and had an opportunity to coach as a head coach at two different prep schools, and have worked my way up the ranks at pretty much working at every level of Division I, some pro experience as well as some head coaching experience at the high Division I level. So kind of done the whole gamut, and had an opportunity to move around quite a bit. And with that, we've met a lot of wonderful people and established a great network along the way, as you and I met through this process in recruiting as well. So great to be here again with you, Jamie.
Absolutely. And before we jump into the NC State Wolfpack, I ask if you would please, we've doing an entire series on this podcast introducing ACC teams to you. So go back and listen to some previous ones. And I ask too that you please go ahead and subscribe, whether you're listening to it on the podcast or you're listening to it on the YouTube version. Please subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating if you're listening to the podcast. And we want to hear in the comment section below, what do you think of NC State? Who's your favorite NC State player of all time? What do you think of this year's team and all that? So please go ahead and give us some feedback and let us know and all that. That really helps us in the rankings and gets this podcast out to more people. But let's jump right into it. NC State Wolfpack. They're coming off of a 9-8 year last year, the 9th place finish in the league. They lose DJ Futterberg and Devin Daniels to graduation, two starters from them. They also lose Shaquille Moore, Braxton Beverly, two guards who are in the rotation to transfer, as Beverly went to Eastern Kentucky, Shaquille Moore on to Mississippi State. Keats is in his 5th year here at NC State. He is 153 and 75 overall with one NCAA tournament appearance. In the last 5 years, Scott, having spent the last 5 years in the ACC, coaching against NC State and Kevin Keats and his teams and everything, what are some things that you could tell us about a Keats-led team and the identity or what it is that the Keats-led teams bring to the table?
Well, Coach Keats and his staff have kind of established an identity of playing on both ends faster than some of the other traditional powerhouse teams that we've talked about, a la Virginia, a la Clemson. NC State really wants to increase possessions throughout the game. They want to do it on both ends of the floor. What Coach Keats has done is established multiple pressure defenses, whether he's in a full court, 3/4 court, man, 2-2-1, run and jump type system, or whether he's in the half court, really pressuring the basketball and getting up and making it hard. He really, really emphasizes pressure defense. On the other side of the ball, offensively, they really want to transition. They want to get out and they want to run. They want to play fast. If there's nothing out of transition, they'll go right into some of their secondary actions. But again, not really holding the ball long. They will create matchups on offense, matchup advantages if there's a lot of switching. I know they hurt us in the past, and I've seen them do that to quite a bit of teams, sort of like the NBA thing. But again, he's established a faster style on both ends of the floor, Jamie.
Looking at this year's team and everything, as we said, they lost 4 rotational players. But what they do return this year is Jericho Helms, the senior. He's the experienced player. He knows what Keats wants. He knows what the ACC brings. We've talked a lot in these podcasts about getting older. Helms last year, 12.9 points. He shot 38% from 3, the 6'6" wing kind of forward as they play. What have you seen from Helms, and what does he kind of bring to the table?
To your point, Jamie, I believe him to be kind of like the staple this year. Like, he's that guy on both ends of the floor. They're gonna lean on him for leadership and to lead by example. Over the last couple of years that I've seen him, he's a guy that can do it at all 3 levels offensively. He shoots the 3. He'll exploit a matchup. offensively. He'll take you off the dribble. He'll put foul pressure on you. On the other side of the ball, he is a guy that's very versatile defensively. I've seen him guard, ones, point guards, and I've seen him switch on to big guys where he's very physical. He plays very hard. And again, to the style to that we talk about system fits, he fits that versatile guy that can play multiple positions, guard multiple positions, and within a system that wants to play fast like that.
Speaking still toward that kind of versatile forward role, the possible breakout player of the year for NC State, Darion Sebron, 6'7", redshirt sophomore. To this point already, he's averaging a double-double, with 19 and a half points, 10 and a half rebounds per game, 2 assists as well. He's got a lot of versatility and wiggle in his game with his size and ability to defend and stuff. What can we expect, Scott, coming from Darion Sebron this season?
Well, Jamie, and you made this point earlier, with all of those losses, those significant losses of last year, you're talking about Funderburk. We haven't yet talked about it. I mean, unfortunately, Bates with the injury is going to be out for the entire season, and our prayers and thoughts go out with him and the NC State family. Hopefully he's going to be okay. But losing those two guys, one, obviously through injury, and then Funderburk, and then the transfers that you mentioned, this is kind of, Sebron and Hellam's team, right? Those two guys are going to be the heart and soul of this year's team. And with Sebron, you're talking about a guy that plays with incredible energy on both ends of the floor. He's got a big time motor. He really wants to attack the basket. He puts a lot of foul pressure on you. He's a matchup problem. If he's got a bigger guy, he'll take you away from the basket and drive it. If he's got a smaller guy, he'll go perimeter to post on you, but he really wants to get to the basket. And again, because of his size and his strength and his versatility, he is a tough matchup. And again, if those two guys, Sebron and Helms, and we'll talk about some of the other guys here in a second, lead by example on both ends of the floor with, again, system fits, versatility, play fast, guys that want to really get after it and create some offense through the defense. Those two guys are going to be keys this year for NC State if they want to move up in the ACC standings.
You talk about Manny Bates, and he was going to be such a big part of what this team was. He himself was going to be a breakout type of player moving forward into the season. He just had shoulder surgery and is going to have to be out for the year now. Jalen Gibson and Ebenezer Dwomna coming in are going to have to play big minutes and fill in for the role of what Manny Bates brought to the table. What do you see from these two players with Ebenezer and Gibson, and what will they need to do in order to fit in for Bates?
Well, losing Bates, you're arguably losing the premier or the elite shot blocker returning in the ACC. Both Ebenezer and Gibson, they're both going to have to now, almost as a collective two-man group, give as much as they could to kind of offset the loss of Bates. Now, again, neither one of them are that type of shot blocker. I think Ebenezer is more of a physical guy. He's more rugged in terms of how he is as a five-man. But Gibson's a lot more skilled. But again, those two guys are going to have to make up for as much as they can. But Bates is a very tough loss for NC State this year. Anytime you lose a rim protector that could do what he could do, again, that really affects your pressure defenses and how they want to play now, because you got no one really at the rim that can protect. Although these two guys, I think, will get better. Jamie, they're going to get better because they're going to have to get better. They're going to have to play. They're going to have to play through mistakes, watch a lot of film, and Coach Keats and his staff do an unbelievable job at improving their guys along the way. These guys, unfortunately, aren't going to have as much time to kind of sit and learn. They're going to be thrust into action and have to learn through their mistakes.
And you talk about their pressure defense that they play. Keats has traditionally liked to throw multiple defensive at you. They want to create turnovers. They want to get you playing really, really fast, to where they throw a lot of guys at you up top and then protect the rim down toward the basket. Having scouted against Keats for the last 5 years and going against him and being in the situation, in the moment on the sidelines, what is the identity of Keats's defense, and what do you see Keats' concepts that he tries to do on the defensive end of the floor?
Well, he came from that Coach Pitino, system, and he has multiple pressure defenses, Jamie. that he likes to implement game to game. At one point, the 2-2-1 was a big part of what they were doing. It was kind of like a three-quarter court 2-2-1 type pressure defense. They always have had that. They've used it more. Again, this year is only 2 games in, but I'd like to get in and show you some of the multiple packages that they have within their defense to create turnovers, to get the game playing faster. And I think one of the biggest, I should say, and JC maybe to cut that out, but one of the biggest misconceptions about pressing is there always has to be a steal, right? And we've talked about this. If you're trying to press at times or pressure defensively, you're trying to increase possessions during the game. So even if somebody takes a quick shot and it's not a good shot, they could equate that to a turnover off the rim and they could run. It could be a situation where, a team pulls it out and it has to get into their offense with less time on the clock. So pressure defenses do a lot more than just, they're not just successful when they steal the ball. There's a lot of different components that contribute to pressure defense's success. So now let's talk a little bit about the multiple defenses that they actually run and how they try to increase possessions doing that. Here's an example of them now trapping, a step-up ball screen. And what they do is when they trap now watch here, you have interceptor up top here. I believe that's Sebron. You have the big in a position down low where, although he's the goaltender, he's in a spot where he can kind of just take that away. And then the interceptor has 2 guys above him, which is Helms. So again, great trap here. They close it. It's high hands. Now he's got to throw this pass off his back foot, and he puts a little too much air under it, where now it gives Helms time to intercept it, as we've talked about, interceptor, and then transition this right into an easy opportunity for them to score a bucket. Again, NC State thrives off turnovers and transition buckets offensively by creating some offense through their defense. Here's one of their multiple pressure situations. This is kind of their 2-2-1, where they'll make it at times hard for you to get the ball in. And what happens here is, there's nobody below the line of the ball. And they really only have, they have outlets, but they're up the floor. They're not in position, where they can, make themselves available. So NC State just kind of runs at the ball here and moves their backline guys up and aggressively attacking it. And with their 2-2-1, like any of their other defense, they'll create that and try to get an easy opportunity. Here's an example of their 2-2-1 and really kind of what they want to do out of it, right? They want to keep you on the sideline. And what they want to do is they want to come kind of from behind to trap you here. And so as a coach, the best places to trap in any full court, 3/4 court, run and jump is either that 1 step before half or 1 step over. And the reasons are very simple. If you trap before they get over half, you're obviously on the clock as another ally of yours, a kind of a 6th defender, because you only have 10 seconds to get the ball over. If you do go into the front court, now you have to keep the ball in the front court. So your 6th defender becomes the half court line and you can't throw the ball back. So ideally, as any coach watching, you want to trap 1 step before half or 1 step over half. And in this case here, again, pretty good trap. They throw back, which is okay. They stay in it. And, now they're in a position where now you're kind of making the offense play a little different than maybe some teams want to play, maybe getting them out of their comfort zone. And it turns into another turnover. Here's a little kind of shortstop, what you call shortstop, where you take the inbounders, man, and you kind of face guard. Teams use this for multiple reasons. One, they could deny the point guard or their best player the ball, or they might be doing it so when they do make the pass, they want the inbounder to get the ball back and make him handle it. We've seen it a couple different ways over the years. In NC State's case here, They're just trying to make it hard to get the ball in and create, again, tempo. And, here they are again, where they're picking up now. They just come from behind, they tip it, and then they look to transition that as quickly as they can to the basket into points. And when you play this style, it is so important. Coach Keach and his staff have done a great job of recruiting system fits, guys who are versatile, who are aggressive, high motor, great instincts, can play multiple positions and have that mindset that they want to be relentless for 40 minutes defensively and to create as many opportunities as they can for easy baskets from their defense.
And with the defense and everything they're trying to run, in order to win in college basketball, you have to have guard play. Starting at point guard this year is going to be Cam Hayes, the sophomore, coming back. He averaged 7.8 points per game last year, 3.1 assists. Greensboro Day kid. He was a top 150 recruit coming out of high school as a freshman. He stayed at NC State. The ball will be in his hands this season. What does Cam Hayes bring to the table?
Winner. I mean, he's a winner, and he's a guy that I believe to be kind of transforming into that mindset of just being a point guard. He's always been a guy that could shoot the three-point shot. This year, he's going to have to be more of not only a three-point shooter, he's going to have to facilitate. And again, like we've talked about, any of these pressure defensive situations, usually your point guard has to be the head of the snake, and he's got to be out there really pressuring the basketball. And he's got great length, he's got great size. He's gotten stronger, from one year to the next year. But look for him to be a guy that really is counted on, not just to make shots, not just to be out there offensively, to get his own. He's going to have to facilitate, make others better, and also pick up the intensity defensively as that point guard has to do in any of their pressure defensive packages.
With the loss of 4 players coming from last year's rotation, some newcomers are going to have to be relied upon. They have 2 transfers and a freshman that will be playing heavy minutes for them this year. We'll start with the 2 transfers. One of them, Greg Gant, coming from Providence. He's still dealing with the hernia situation. He hasn't played yet, and the injury is still ongoing. He's easing back. He's getting into the, he's moving around a little bit now. So timetable is uncertain, but they'll rely upon him once he comes in. And then Casey Morcell, who played huge in their game against Colgate this past weekend. 6'3" guard out of the University of Virginia. Both of these guys will be in their third year of college, juniors. Talk a little bit about what Morcell and Gant will bring to this team with their experience.
Gant, who I've seen quite a bit since high school, he actually this year, with Bates now being out for the season, Gant has that ability to be a presence at the rim now. He's long, he's athletic. Although he's not as big as Bates, again, we've talked about basketball players in terms of measuring them from their feet to their head. And usually we should be measuring them from their feet to their wingspan, because Gant has extremely great length in terms of his size. And he'll be a guy that I believe to be a presence at the rim. He's active, he's talented, he's oozing with potential. He'll be counted on to play maybe an undersized. At times, they can go small. He's a very versatile guy, once again, that can play multiple positions. I think he's a great system fit for what Coach Keats and his staff are trying to do. And Morcell, look, I've seen him when I was coaching at Maryland. He was a kid that, when he was really young, and then I saw him through my time here recruiting the DMV in high school, and he was a very gifted scorer. And there were times, even at Virginia, that he was phenomenal. And, Jamie, it's one of those things where I think, again, appealing or trying to, connect with the audience here, younger audience, sometimes you go through some struggles. And a kid like Morcell, who really hadn't struggled much, especially offensively in high school, there were times I think that he lost a little bit of his mojo and swagger because he wasn't making shots. And that happens with young players. The biggest and the best message would be this, do not judge yourself by being successful just because you're making shots. Be that guy that understands that defensively, you get yourself going on that end. It's a lot easier. It takes the pressure off you on offense. But again, Morcell, very talented offensive player. He has probably one of the best 1 or 2 dribble pull-ups going right. Goes left also with it, but going right, he's as efficient pull-up shooter as I've seen over the last 20 plus years. Has extended his range. Again, he's coming from UVA, so he's been taught how to defend on the ball, in the gaps, 2 passes away. So look for Morcell to be a guy, again, within this style, in terms of increased possessions, is going to be counted on to provide a lot more scoring this year for NC State with his versatility in pressure defenses also.
The third newcomer to the system that's going to log big minutes, freshman Terquavion Smith, absolute pure electricity. In his final 3 years of high school, he won 3 state championships and only lost 2 games in 3 years. He was a top 150 type player. He's a shooting guard. He's playing that 6-man heat 'em up role coming off the bench so far, it seems, for them. And his confidence might be his best attribute on the floor. What are you seeing from Terquavion Smith, and how does he how does his confident game kind of fit into this team?
Well, with Jaquavion, we've seen him through AAU in high school, right? And he's a kid that can really light up the scoreboard and really get it going. And to your point, I think some of that too kind of translates to this level, because he's one of those guys where he's not going to be afraid of playing in any venue against any player or supposed all conference ACC guy. He's not backing down from any of these guys. And I think what you said about his confidence and his belief are really important qualities that translate. And again, I'm not sure he's ever going to put up the numbers that he put up in high school. At least I know for a fact this year he won't. But I think as he continues to get stronger, continues to get acclimated to the Division I level in terms of how every possession is important. He's a guy that I think can bring a lot of electricity, be a lot of fun to watch through his time at NC State, but a gifted offensive player and a guy, like you said, that plays with exceptional confidence and swagger.
Speaking of the offensive side of the basketball, so much of Keats' identity and what he does at NC State is wrapped up on the defensive end of the floor, the identity of what they try to do. A team that is so focused on defense that, whether or not he plays players determines whether they can play defense or not. But with so much wrapped up on the defensive side of the floor, what type of offensive concepts and what type of stuff does he try to do on his identity on the offensive end of the floor?
Well, it starts from the defense to offense, right? So they're trying to turn you over. They're trying to get you to play at a faster pace. Again, we talked about it's not just turning you over, it's trying to get the other team to take quicker shots. And with all of that, comes their opportunity on primary break situations, which means advantage breaks, or secondary break situations where they can come down and get right into a drag ball screen and really try to score quickly out of their transition stuff. From there, Jamie, they'll get into some half-court stuff. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I like to do here is to show NC State and how they quickly can turn a turnover from their defense into offense. As we speak today, they're averaging 18.3 points per game off of turnovers this season. And here's a great example of it. In this game, in this possession here, you're going to see in a possession where the ball actually goes to the post, and Helms does a really good job as his man speed cuts through. He actually comes down and actually swipes at the ball, and watch how fast they create some offense through their defense. I mean, all those guys are kind of seasoned and really it's ingrained in them. As soon as they can get a turnover, they want to transition to the other end and score as quickly as they possibly can. So in that clip there, you showed a great example of how fast they can turn offense from their defense. In this next possession here, you're going to see, again, they want to play fast. They want to increase possessions. This is off a missed shot here. And what happens is, watch, this is Sebron. Okay, number one is Sebron. And again, kind of a versatile forward, but he gets the rebound. So some teams are predicated on having their point guards or their two men always leading the break. In NC State's case, because of their system fits and their versatility, Sebron, who could play anywhere from the 3 to 4, he just gets the ball and busts it out. And this is Jaquavion Smith here in a position where, again, he sets his feet, really good pass by Sebron, and an uncontested 3-point shot in rhythm. Again, transition to an open 3. This first offensive in the half court set will be kind of a multiple ball screen set. And I kind of want to show something here to the audience. Okay. So off this rebound, the team they're playing, Colgate, is back and their defense is kind of set right now in transition. But what happens is NC State is trying to run it first primary. When you're talking about primary break, you're talking about taking advantage of the defense. Maybe somebody's not back. Maybe you're outnumbering them. But when the defense is set, and here they run right from their primary, which they didn't have anything, with a drag ball screen here, random, they now run into another ball screen situation, which again, talking a little bit more about how to play from primary to secondary break. So what happened here was NC State originally set forth to try to score off their primary break. They didn't have anything, and they ran right into their secondary action. And in this case, they terminate with a step-up ball screen, butt to the baseline. And the point of ball screen defender here in terms of guarding the big for Colgate is too far off. So now Cam Hayes just takes it, kind of cuts through the middle and finishes, to the basket with an easy shot. And so, again, sometimes you get caught up as a coach and thinking, what's primary, what's secondary? Well, that was a great example of a team that really wanted to run primary advantage type situation, didn't have anything, and they flowed right into their secondary actions. And that's really hard because now the defense doesn't have a lot of time to set up. Great teaching point for a lot of coaches. Here's an example here where NC State, again, very well coached by Coach Keach and his staff. And what they do is they want to put the ball, in this case, in Aaron Sebron's hands, one of their best players. And so they run a little dribble handoff and they kind of circle Sebron off of this where he catches the handoff. And now he's going to catch it in a position where he can play downhill, playing to his strengths. Sebron is as good of a player offensively going downhill as anybody in the country. Great execution. And, you can see what the results are, an easy opportunity for an easy basket.
Keats on this year's team is going to want to play 8, 9, even 10 guys throughout the course of a game. He'll get them in the rotation, play the hot hand, and just keep them rotated in so they can keep that defense going. Two more freshmen that he has. One of them is a little bit more developmental, and Ernest Ross, the top 100 player out of Florida. But Breon Pass has entered himself into the possible rotation. And then another transfer that they had come in. He didn't transfer this year. He transferred in last year. A guy you're very familiar with who ended his high school career up at Brewster Academy, started off at Nebraska. Then he transferred back home to NC State, Thomas Allen. Talk about the two freshmen a little bit, what you know about Ernest Ross, what you know about Breon Pass, and then what Thomas Allen brings to the table as well.
Well, if it's okay, let me start with Thomas Allen, just because I've seen him so much throughout his time at Brewster Academy. And then obviously he was at Nebraska, saw him quite a bit in AAU basketball, but he was, people maybe forget though, he was the NEPSAC, the New England Prep School Athletic Conference Player of the Year out of Brewster. Excellent 3-point shooter, somebody that really can get it going. And again, I believe him to be counted on this year a lot more in terms of a guy that can score the ball, especially making those 3-point shots, just because of what they lost with Funderburk, Beverly, and who's the other kid?
Kilmore.
No, the other kid from
Devin Daniels.
Utah, and Daniels. Let me start that again so we get it all together. I feel like let's see, oh my God.
Thomas Allen.
Yeah, I feel like Thomas Allen is going to be counted on a lot more this year because of the losses. I mean, losing somebody like Daniels, who was, so gifted. You lost Beverly, 3-point shooter, and then Funderburk was, just a man down the post, so you could really score or draw fouls. They're going to be counting on somebody like Thomas Allen this year to make threes. So again, very important for him to be somebody that's consistent this year for NC State as they continue their quest to move up the standings. The two freshmen that you just mentioned, Breon Pass, I've seen a lot of Breon, and I've seen him on live, and I've seen him on film, and he's a guy that, again, with his football background, was a kid that physically kind of reminded me a lot of Bowman, Kai Bowman, the kid that we had at North Carolina, just in terms of his mindset. Very aggressive. He gets after you defensively. He plays the game, with a tremendous, speed, and he really wants to get up and down the floor. Aggressive type mindset, and again, he shoots the three. He's a very deceptive offensive guy in terms of being a guy that can not only pressure you defensively, but he can make shots and get to the basket, especially with his body. Gets into you with his physicality. A guy that can really make a difference this year for NC State, and I think he'll get better as the year goes. The other young man, Ernest Ross, coming out of Florida, again, very thin, skilled, can step out and shoot mid-range jump shots. He's going to have to get a lot stronger, which, again, NC State coach, Keats and his staff have done a really nice job of getting those guys with the weight training and strength and conditioning and nutrition. He'll bulk up. But again, he's going to need to get a lot stronger, but he is more of a skill guy, at least right now, with a quick first step, rip and drive from that high post area. But both guys will help. If NC State's going to make that move, though, it's going to be these veteran guys and these transfers that are going to really have to elevate their games.
Talking about Thomas Allen a little bit earlier got me thinking. Obviously, he played with the Garner Road AAU program. Garner Road is the Adidas program local here to Raleigh, North Carolina, where NC State's at. Also playing with that Garner Road program was Jerome Robinson, a player that you're very familiar with, a guy from Raleigh, North Carolina. I think Boston College beat out maybe Richmond for him, and I don't think Richmond was pressing to get him. I think they took somebody else, and he just kind of did that. Played for 3 years at Boston College in the ACC, ended up being a lottery pick. I love our talks about development. This is somebody that you and I both had watched a lot of. We would be sitting in the stands, the only coach and scout sitting in the stands watching this guy, and we would walk out the door saying, this guy's a pro. His skill set was unbelievable and stuff. I want to hear a little bit from you about what it was that you saw in him. He grew up being a baseball player, didn't play basketball full time until maybe the 10th or 11th grade. All this other stuff that goes into it. What did you see in him? And then talk a little bit about the developmental curve that he had once you got him in the Boston College program.
Well, Jamie, for the viewers that maybe have just tuned into this as their first podcast, this is kind of how we connected, right? Over the years in North Carolina in these back gyms, talking about certain players. But we really got talking about Jerome when he was coming out of Broughton and through his time, with Garner Rhodes. And we, both of us, kind of saw the same thing in terms of envisioning what he would eventually become, would turn into with added strength, with individual development. And it's a great story for, again, all kids to kind of tune into, because here's a kid that played on a team that, right now, I mean, if you looked at some of the Garner Road kids, they were much more highly regarded and ranked than he was. Even at Broughton, there were times Jerome was, counted on, but he was also such a team player that, you really couldn't see how much he could do offensively, because, he was trying to do the right thing by what the coach needed him to do to win. And we continue to talk about trying to visualize where somebody could be within your system through individual development and continued, physical maturation. And the one thing that I will tell you about Jerome is he was that guy that you could actually put him in any system and he could get, almost overlooked, because he was the consummate, make the right play type guy. And, because of that, he didn't put up numbers at times at AU. He didn't show consistent, I'm going to average this many points or this a game. All he ever did was fill up the box score and trying to help a team win. And, it really was a great story because most every coach out there, again, Richmond really recruited him hard as we did, but there wasn't a lot of high level, high major attention. As a matter of fact, several of the people within his circle, were questioning, us and you, and, is he even, an ACC caliber guy? And sometimes as a coach, you have to, take that on the chin. You got to believe what you really believe. And again, I remember talking to you several times, over the phone and in person, and about, what you thought. And we always, thought kind of the same thing, that he was going to be a guy that would develop into something special. And it ends up being the first lottery pick in the history of Boston College basketball. And what a great story for a lot of kids, a wonderful family. He's got some brothers, younger brothers coming up. I know one of the younger ones too is really into basketball, but just a great story, a great kid. And I hope that he just had surgery on his Achilles. I like to get him on the show sometime so we can kind of talk a little bit more, but he's coming back, and I'm sure he's going to enter one of these G League programs to get back, hopefully on track, and be back in the NBA sooner than later. But again, great story.
One of the things that you mentioned there, and I don't want to get too far off track, but it just jogged my thought process. Obviously, this whole part is not scripted or anything, but you mentioned the fact that he's such a good team player that when you put him around a lot of talent, he just orchestrates everything and makes everything go. How much of his success and development do you think was predicated upon going to the right fit, going to one a school or a place that really believed in him, and two, a place that forced him to be the man? Like he went to Boston College, and there was nobody to defer to. He was going to have to be the man and the focal point, and he would have to develop that mentality. In this whole recruiting process, going to the biggest level and all this type of stuff, how big do you think it was with the development of him, of going to the right place, the right fit, the right staff?
Right. System fit, right? System fit. Our program at Boston College, all of us on staff, we had a plan for Jerome. Starts with, Coach Christian to all of us. And, our goal was to get him on campus and to really start developing what we thought to be something that had the potential to eventually get where he is today. But to your point, Jamie, sometimes lost in all of this recruiting are kids that are like Jerome, that for whatever reason, might not have shown as well within a certain system, whether that's AAU high school, camp, an all-star game, just because of the way they're used and the way they go about their approach to the game. When Jerome was asked to be that guy, he became that guy. I mean, I think he tied the ACC record on the road. I think he had 46 points at Notre Dame his junior year. And again, being that guy that was counted on to do that for us really helped his profile. But Jerome is still kind of the same thing. And even, in the NBA, I think at times right now, I think he gets lost a little bit in I want to make the right play. Whereas, hey, Jerome, you're so gifted on this side. Could you just do this for us? And I think, people want him to be that scorer, that shooter, which he is. But, just his mindset has always been, I want to make the right play to help the team win. And I think that's something that, again, he's still trying to adjust a little bit to the NBA style of what they need him and want him to do. But yeah, I mean, it's so important, Jamie, to be with the right coach, the right guys that believe in you, and the right system that fits, what that player's eventually going to be asked to do.
I love those stories. I love ending this stuff in those stories. It's always good to see. You have such a track record of players who under the radar develop into big time stuff, pros, draft picks, great college players. The list goes on and on and on. It's just fascinating to hear the back end. Obviously, me being on the recruiting side of things, I love the backstory of players, of how they went overlooked or why they went underlooked, because everybody's story is different, like snowflakes or whatnot. So I just love ending all the episodes in those.
And let me add this, Jamie. I mean, as much as we've talked and we've shown a lot of different things about the teams and their systems, and then we've broken down their identities on offense and defense. You and I both know, you win with players. You need talent, and so again, there's only so many schools out there that you can recruit to the front of your jersey. Meaning, the blue bloods and the schools that have so much of a culture or tradition, whereas 95% of us out here are trying to find these diamonds in the rough, and trying to identify guys like Jerome. So again, I know, what you've been able to accomplish down there in terms of finding those type of players, and you're out working, and you're seeing these guys day in and day out. And again, there's no substitute for going out and seeing players, because as you know, Jamie, the more you see players, the more, as time goes on, you start thinking to yourself, he reminds me of this guy, who reminds me of that guy, reminds me of that guy. And once your mind gets to that point, the evaluation process gets a little bit easier, because you've been in the gyms for so many hours and days and along the way, that it just becomes natural for you. And so again, let's not mistake. Anyway, you got to have talent to win.
No, absolutely. And that's another great part of this episode. And thank you, everybody who's listened to this far with us as we broke down NC State. We went through their personnel, we went through their identities, what they try to do on defense, their concepts on offense, and went through expectations of players and what they bring to the floor and everything. If you enjoyed this episode about NC State, listen to the previous episodes as well. We're breaking down the entire ACC here on the breakdown. This is how we're starting off our college basketball podcast. Later, we will be getting into interviews. We'll be getting into analysis and breaking down the week's events and games and all that type of stuff too. But make sure you go check out the previous episodes, whether you're listening to the podcast or the YouTube. Also, subscribe to us wherever you're listening to, whether it be the podcast or YouTube, the video, and rate us 5 stars on the podcast if you would, and then comment section below. Let us know who your favorite NC State player is, what you think about this NC State team, who your favorite all-time player is, what you think about Keats, everything. We want to hear from you. You rating us 5 stars, you commenting to us, you subscribing helps us out. It helps get this podcast, it helps get this information out to more people along the way. But until next time, thank you all very much for listening. I am Jamie Shaw, my co-host Scott Spinelli. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Jamie.